Sensationally silver, because you are.
Welcome, everyone, to Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age, people who are going to bring you information, inspiration, and validation. Join us. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age. And my guest today is a repeat guest. She's one of my favorite guests and absolutely one of my favorite people in the whole world, Julia Loggins. And Julia is going to talk to us today about something I need to know about. I bet you might really benefit from knowing about it too. She's going to talk to us about 7-minute meals. And for a person like me who hates to cook, gosh, what a wonderful thing to talk about. Hi, Julia. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me back, Robin. It's great to be here.
Oh, I love to have you here because you always have things to share with us that we need to learn. We need to know how to do or take care of or whatever.
But we're always talking about one end or the other, right?
Yes. One end of the body or the other.
One end of the body or the other. This time we're talking about what we put in rather than how we get it out.
Okay. All right. So, shall we just jump in?
Jump in, because that's what all my clients ask me of every age, but particularly as we get older, what am I going to eat? How can I eat to make, how can it be fast, nutritious, boost my energy? How do I get enough protein? How can it be fast? That's the question it keeps coming back to. And when we're younger, especially for us women, a lot of the times maybe we were in the kitchen all the time because we had kids. So, we were always cooking. Even if we didn't like to, we had to think about what to get on the table. And the good part of that, even if for those people who didn't like it, is it means that you generally got fed. Whereas as we age, kids are out of the house, maybe we have a partner, maybe we are living alone. Um, and we are all of a sudden, we are not cooking for a bunch of kids. There's not 6 leftover meals in the fridge that we might grab when we get home from work because we had to do it for somebody else. Maybe it's just us now. And all of a sudden, what I notice in my clients over 60 is nutrition starts to fail. And also, people will say, I didn't, even people who like to cook might say, I didn't mind cooking for 3 or 4. I don't even know how to cook for 1 or 2, but a lot of times it's just 1. And I don't want to take a ton of time to do it. And so I just have cereal, or I go out and get something I probably shouldn't have because I don't want to deal with it and I don't know what to do. And that's what all of today is about.
Okay. Because our priorities change as we get older.
Yes, our priorities change.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. We have to cook for other people, but we don't have to cook for ourselves. So sometimes we don't.
And for men, for you men out there, maybe someone else cooked for you. Um, And so maybe now you're on your own and maybe you never cooked. There's certainly plenty of women that don't like to cook, but some of them, my mother was one of them, got stuck cooking for other people. But if it had been my dad who survived instead of my dad went first, then and my mom had always been cooking for herself. But in her later years, her nutrition started to fail and she'd always had good food in the house. But my dad never cooked. So for men out there who've really never cooked, you may be even in more trouble. But I'd say for everybody over 60, food is an issue and getting nutrition is an issue. And economics may or may not be a part of it, but all the things that I am going to talk about today are really budget friendly as well as fast.
Great. That's what we need.
Okay. And you can prepare them in 7 minutes, even though it may take a little more time than that, like some forethought, which is what we're going to talk about, to just have things around so that when you get to it, it's 7 minutes. That's the goal, because what we don't want to be doing at any age, but really at our age, I'm 70, so everybody out here is probably over 60, 70, 80, whatever we are, we're older. What we really don't want to be doing is eating fast food. We don't want to be eating fast food. It's not good for us. And so many older people are living on fast food. Now, I'm going to talk about how to use prepared foods in a healthy way, because there are prepared foods that are healthy. I'm going to talk about them. So, and I made a breakfast, lunch, and dinner menus that I'm going to share 3 or 4 things for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you can, of course, everybody out there, you can have, there are no rules at our age, right? We are making it up. Nobody tells us what to do. You can have dinner at breakfast time and you can have breakfast at dinner. There are no rules. And my kids loved breakfast at dinner anyway. Who doesn't? But you can do it however you want it. And I'm also going to talk about what to do if you're not hungry, because although we don't want any of us to carry a lot of extra weight just out of for our health, I work with a lot of elderly clients who are struggling with appetite. So we're going to talk about how to work with that. Does that sound good?
Yes, it sounds very pertinent.
Okie doke. So let's start with breakfast. Um, let's start, if for any reason out there you are someone who doesn't really like breakfast, that's okay. We're going to talk about how to make sure you're getting food. But let's talk about the number one thing most people do when they start the day. I don't think you do this, Robin. I'm not sure. I don't know about anybody out there. Most people in America have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So you don't. I didn't
No.
think so. So what I want people out there to hear is that for those of you who have a gut issue, which is really common as we get older, colitis, IBS, diverticulitis, any tummy issue. Let's talk about the symptoms of that. Pain, bloating. This is more and more common as we get older, because we're dealing with chronic issues that are now went from being a tiny little thing to a bigger thing. So there are so many people who did okay on coffee, to begin their day, and it stopped working and starting to cause other problems. So the number one thing, switch to a low acid coffee. And that is one of the best things you can do for your health. Caffeine, everyone should know, is not the issue. The issue is the acid in coffee. Just think of it as battery acid into your stomach first thing in the morning. How could this be a good thing? As we get older, it's really not a good thing. And stress doesn't change as we get older. In fact, I think because we're so much wiser and we are psychically holding a lot of people, we actually may become even more aware of greater stress, community stress, world stress, all of that. So now we have to really protect our tummies. Ulcers are super common for people over 60. So let's protect our tummy. If you love coffee, switch to a low acid brand. Pangea is one, Fabula is one. You can find them on Amazon. And on my website, I write a lot of blogs about them, about low acid coffees. They taste delicious. They have caffeine. Decaf has more acid than regular coffee. If you can't have caffeine, don't switch to decaf. If you can't have caffeine, use an herbal coffee substitute like Ticino or dandelion tea. And green tea and matcha, which have caffeine, have no acidity. So you could also go with green tea or matcha. And if you like to go to Starbucks in the morning, that's another issue, because they're going to put a lot of sugar in that coffee, and they're going to put a crummy kind of creamer. So if you do it at home, then use a healthy non-dairy creamer, because even though this sounds like we're spending a lot of time on it, this is like a big part of so many people's life and their pleasure. So I'm not going to take your pleasure away from you. I'm just going to shift it a little bit, because ulcers are not fun.
Well, and what you're saying, Julia, is as we get older, some of those things that were free, there wasn't a big consequence, they
Yes.
turn into basically acting like a poison in our system. They're making us sick.
They're making us really sick, and it was our pleasure, and now it is our poison. So for some of my clients, they just can't have it at all in any form for quite a while. So to keep everybody out here from getting to that place, if you can switch to a low acid coffee, like I said, there's many brands now. Mushroom coffee is another one. So that's the coffee part and the tea part. Black tea is acidic. So black tea is not a free ride. Green tea is. So let's talk about what we can eat in the morning. If you feel hungry, not everybody does. If you're not super hungry, one of the things that is really critical at our age is that we get enough protein. We need as much protein as kids and teenagers. We need more protein than we did in our 30s, 40s, and 50s. So we have to protect our bones, really important. It's one of the number one causes of death is people fall and don't recover. We don't want to be that person. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today has a protein component to it that makes it easy. So if you like a smoothie in the morning because you don't want to eat solid food, please look at the protein source that you have. No soy and no whey. Those are inflammatory and they're going to aggravate your stomach and make you swell. Whenever I use the word inflammation, just think of puffiness and swelling. Ankles, under your eyes, because your internal organs are as affected by that swelling as the way we see it on our face. So look at if you have a protein powder you love, no soy, no whey. And if you like a smoothie in the morning and you want to make it with a non-dairy milk, frozen berries, almond butter is a great thing to throw in, frozen banana, low sugar. Fruits are great because after all, we're watching our blood sugar. And then a scoop of protein powder because I always look for places to sneak in protein powder. Um, that's one breakfast. Another one, everybody out there who's eating cream of wheat or wheat cereals, I'm going to ask you to change. This is something to tweak because we're up leveling here. That's what we're doing. So there's wonderful fast cereals out there. Cream of rice, cream of quinoa, cream of buckwheat. They're so delicious. You can put monk fruit as a sugar alternative, a non-dairy creamer, a non-dairy. There's plenty of amazing non-dairy creamers. It's like a whole new market out there for non-dairy creamers. Layered is a really good one that makes a no sugar non-dairy creamer for your coffee and your cereal. You can sneak in some protein powder. I will talk about oatmeal. People love oatmeal. It's constipating. You can have your oatmeal, but if you have constipation as an issue, choose something else for breakfast. And then please, if you're using bran or some kind of high fiber, it can upset your stomach. If you're wondering why all of a sudden you're bloating and you're like me, as you remember what they told us in the 80s about fiber and bran and all that stuff, okay, it's really not good for us. They told us other things in the 80s that weren't good for us, like sweet and low and aspartame. They told us that sugar was good and salt was bad. So we're sort of relearning nutrition. So cream of rice, cream of quinoa, cream of buckwheat, all of those. There's also wonderful frozen gluten-free waffles that you throw in your toaster oven for 2 minutes. And then you smother them with almond butter or avocado, sugar-free jelly. And those are 30 seconds, you've got a waffle.
One of the things that I do is I buy the frozen fruits and I make them into a syrup. I just
Oh,
warm them
yeah.
and add some monk fruit if
Mhm.
not sweet enough, and then put that on top. It's wonderful,
Delicious,
really,
isn't
really
it?
tasty.
It's so good. It takes like a minute. A toaster-free toaster waffles. There's so many brands of delicious gluten-free toaster waffles. They just take a second and they're wonderful. And then we've got the breakfast favorite, eggs. And you can scramble them, which is an easy way to digest them, soft boil them, scramble them with goat cheese, mushrooms. If you like eggs, eggs are a great breakfast. I know that another thing we were taught in the 80s is that we have to watch our cholesterol around eggs. Pretty much that has been debunked. So don't panic around the egg thing. If you love eggs, eggs are a great protein breakfast. I don't think you like eggs, right,
I
Rob?
love eggs. Oh
You
my
love eggs? Oh, you
goodness.
love eggs. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love eggs too.
Scramble them with avocado and tomato. Oh,
Yeah, avocado and tomato. That is a great breakfast. And for those of you who really don't like breakfast and you just want to have your cup of something warm in the morning, then do try in an hour or two to get something with protein, even just a small smoothie into your stomach. You don't want to go too far into the day with nothing because hunger is going to strike and you'll grab something you shouldn't. It's like I'm always looking, just trust that protein is your antidote for sugar and carb cravings. If you get a little protein in your body in the morning, your desire for sugar and carbs will go down for the rest of the day. That protects our health, our weight, our blood sugar, which is like I'm real conscious of blood sugar because so many people become type 2 diabetic when they're 60, and that is preventable. Type 1 diabetes is a whole other story, but type 2 is really, we can really prevent that. And then we can also um, take care of ourselves, meaning even for people who have it, most of my clients are not on meds. So you can do that with diet.
okay.
So it's easy.
All right.
Another thing I want to talk about in the morning, because it has to do with dinner, is a lot of the dinners that I make that I have that take me 7 minutes are because I put my 7 minutes in the morning and I have my trusty slow cooker. And the slow cookers, which are trendy again, all the young Gen Zs and millennials, they're all using slow cookers. We call them crock pots. They cost under, oh my gosh, they're like from $20 to $80, a great investment. And so, like this morning before I left the house, in my crock pot, I put turkey thighs, a bag of organic carrots, salt, and rosemary. I put the top on, left the house. I'm going to have dinner tonight. And the house will smell amazing.
And you won't be so hungry when you come home that you eat something that is not going to be good for you.
Exactly. It took me 5 minutes to do that this morning. And when I walk in the door, dinner will be ready. And I do that a lot. And there's so many things. I'll talk about it when we get to the dinner piece. But this is the time of day that you want to create that, which is right now. You just have your slow cooker. If you don't own one, you can get one literally almost anywhere. You can get one at a handy shop like a utility shop, Home Depot, home improvement type shop. You can get it at the drugstore. They sell them. They sell them on Amazon. These are super and they're really cost effective. I'm only bringing it up at breakfast time because that's when I threw my food. What I did for my kids, for those of you, a lot of times as we get older, we're not eating that spicy of foods. But for people who love curry, you can put chicken and curry in. I did a lot of Mexican meals for the kids. All of this takes 5 minutes. All you're doing is adding your protein, some veggies that are pre-cut, which you can buy pre-cut, some salt, some, rosemary or garlic, whatever you like. Boom, you are done. And when you come home, not only do you have dinner, but the leftovers are fabulous.
And what varies the kind of food you're eating is more the spices than anything else,
Yeah,
right?
completely. Like you could change, I can make 6 things out of turkey thighs. I found that I prefer chicken turkey, and chicken thighs and turkey thighs. Breasts are delicious if you broil them or put them in an air fryer. We're going to talk about air fryers as as a kitchen shortcut later. But when you're cooking a long stew type thing, thighs are tastier. They're much tastier. And I use chicken thighs and turkey thighs a lot in my cooking. And I vary the spices. If it's a Mexican spice, you just buy the spice all ready made. You don't have to make these things up. If you like curry, you can do curry. If you like Thai, you just add it. You do pre-cooked veggies, pre-cut veggies, throw it in, add some water if you don't have vegetable broth around, which you don't need, because the all of that will make its own broth. And you're done. It's the fastest meal.
So when you're talking about the thighs, are you talking about skinless and
Yeah,
boneless or
good,
not?
great
Yes.
question. You definitely want a bone. That's such a good question. You definitely want to buy your chicken and you don't want skinless either. Now, sometimes I'll take the skin off before I cook. Sometimes I'll leave it on because it adds flavor. It also adds nutrients. It adds collagen, which we want for not only our face, but for the whole rest of our body. I mean, we're out there buying expensive collagen products. We could just be eating it. But you definitely want the bone, not only for the taste, but for the nutrients, the minerals, the vitamins. I mean, this is, after all, how our grandparents and great-grandparents ate. They ate a lot of long-cooked stews because the bones and the marrow seep nutrients. And if there's any age group that needs nutrients in their bones, it's ours. I mean, kids need it for growing up. We need it to just save our life.
That makes sense. Makes total sense. I remember many years ago having a conversation with a woman whose family owned a sausage company, a very well known sausage company. And she was bringing them to this event we were involved in. And people kept asking her for low fat, low fat. And she said, you know what? You're not going to have any flavor. The
Right.
fat brings the flavor.
Yes.
And without that, it's going to taste like sawdust.
And it's why I don't cook with chicken breast very often unless I'm doing a quick stir fry, because they just don't have that much flavor. And also, fat doesn't make us fat. That's another myth from the 80s, that fat will make us fat, and does not make us fat. We need fat. People that lived on, I had an aunt who just lived on fat-free foods, ended up with the worst case of arthritis. So we just don't want to live on those diet foods or fat foods. Um, so I'm going to jump into lunch because some of the things, this is where we can use prepared foods from the grocery store that are actually healthy, but they're not fast foods like going to McDonald's or Taco Bell. A rotisserie chicken, already cooked from the grocery store, is one of the best prepared foods you can buy. I noticed that now regular markets, not just Whole Foods or Gelson's, not just high-end markets, but regular markets, not only do they have rotisserie chickens, many of them have hormone-free rotisserie chickens. You can choose. I noticed at my local Ralph's that there was $1 difference between the organic, hormone-free and the regular. $1, which is so little to pay for not having hormones and antibiotics in our food. And you got a whole chicken for it. It actually was less expensive, that ironically, than buying the raw chicken. So if you're one person out there and you don't want to just cook a whole chicken, buy a rotisserie chicken, half or whole. It's so inexpensive, and for lunch, you can take chunks of it, throw it into a salad. You can have it around all the time to munch on. It's one of my favorite prepared foods. The other thing that you can get at the deli, now often at the deli, they'll have whole roast beef, whole hams, whole turkeys, and they'll do a slice or two. So if you've been hankering for something you used to have, but you're just not going to make it anymore because it's just you, go to your local grocery store, and look for the deli. They're going to have all the meats you loved, prime rib. If you want just a small, tiny slice, they'll give it to you for a tiny fraction of what a whole one would cost that you probably wouldn't eat. I do that with chicken or turkey and toss it in with a salad, canned salmon, canned sardines, and a wonderful lunch mixed with some mayo, and budget friendly, and really an excellent source of protein. For anybody out there, our parents ate a lot of sardines. My dad ate sardines. I couldn't get myself to fall in love with them until Gosh, probably my 60s. But now I am in love with them. So they're one of the healthiest foods we can eat and one of the least expensive.
I remember my grandmother eating sardines. I think that would be a bit of a stretch for me, but we'll see.
I know. It's for anybody out there, if sardines are a big, you think I just can't do that, go for the canned salmon. The canned wild caught salmon is one of the best buys you can do. You mix it with some mayo and your seasonings and put it over some butter lettuce and some arugula and avocado. You've got a great budget-friendly lunch. And we're sort of grew up, most of us, with tuna. Rather than eating tuna every day, switch it out for salmon. Just throw some salmon in. And one of my clients decided she was going to introduce sardines into her life by putting a small amount of them in with the salmon. So she kind of snuck it in. And that's how she started eating sardines. Sardines are really good for us. Um, but it's one of the things that make lunches easy. And what we want as we get older is food in our fridge that takes us no time to eat and is healthy. Otherwise, what are we going to do? We're going to reach for chips or crackers or something to fill ourselves up because we're starving. And now we've got something that's not only not good for our tummy, not good for our waistline, but we're probably not feeling very good. And if we make it easy, we'll do it. Let's face it. If it's not easy, we're not going to do it.
So true. So, so true.
The next thing I'm going to talk about quickly is one more item that I would love everyone to consider owning it because it's easy and I'm old and I'm not very technical. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's an air fryer. Air fryers look like toaster ovens, but what they do is they make cooking something like a piece of salmon, a piece of a fillet of sole. Like you can do it in under 7 minutes with no mess. It is so much easier than using your oven. It's fantastic for eating alone. Everything tastes delicious because guess why? The word air fry means everything tastes crispy on top. If you loved your fried chicken or salmon with a crust or anything that you adored, but it's either too much trouble or you don't want to eat fried food anymore, you get to have an air fryer. My husband, he used to bake his French fries because he didn't fry them, but he would buy frozen French fries and bake them for 20 minutes. He now air fries them for 7 minutes and they taste exactly like they were French fried. He's crazy about them. I bought it for a Christmas present. He said, I'll never use that thing. And he fell madly in love with it and uses it every single day. And they're also really inexpensive and you can find them on Amazon. They're super easy to use and they take 30 seconds to clean because you're just taking a parchment paper out and tossing it. So not only do I want 7-minute meals for all of us, I want 30-second cleaning.
So we don't have to hang out in the kitchen cooking or washing dishes or whatever. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. So you can still enjoy a really lovely meal, like really treat yourself, and it doesn't have to take any time. And the cleanup doesn't have to be onerous because that's not fun to do, especially when we're by ourselves. And it's really super easy. There's also really fun things you can experiment with for pasta lovers out there. I haven't forgotten you. Yes, gluten-free pasta exists. It's delicious. If you buy the fresh gluten-free pasta, it tastes exactly like wheat pasta. And we are reducing our wheat whenever possible. It's inflammatory. We don't want that as we age. But there's something called hearts of palm pasta that takes 3 minutes to cook. It's made out of hearts of palm. So it's not even a grain and it's so delicious. And you just throw it in a saucepan for 3 or 4 minutes and you cook it up, toss in a vegetable or whatever else you want. And that also there's so many wonderful choices for fat. For the fastest way to cook pasta, if you're not cooking for a lot of people and you just want to do something like, I really want pasta tonight, but I don't want to spend 10 minutes boiling the water, 10 minutes. In fact, who can even lift that boiling water? Like it gets right. So we want it really fast. We just want to use a little bit of water. Then fresh pasta in the refrigerator case of your grocery store, the gluten-free, will cook in just 2 or 3 minutes, and you don't need very much water. So it's not a big deal to lift to the sink because it has like a cup or two of water in it. And now you've got pasta, and you don't have to make more than a serving.
That sounds so easy. I love this.
It's so easy. We're making everything easy. And there's high protein pastas. There's so much out there. So at least in a nutshell, that is a few snapshot ideas for how to get 7-minute meals that are really delicious, nutritious, and so easy. And if you don't like to cook and you hate the kitchen and you're scared of the kitchen, I hope I diffused it just a tiny little bit.
Well, Julia, as always, you did the very, very best job imaginable. I have to say,
Yeah.
Julia knows I say this. I say it to all kinds of people. Ask Julia, because she's always got the answer. And the answer is always a really, really good, wise, practical, and today really demonstrates easy answer.
Easy. Yeah, if it isn't easy and practical, we're not going to do it, especially at our age. We're just not going to.
Yeah, we've put in our time.
Put in our time. Yeah.
All right. Well, Julia, we've got to go, but I'm so grateful. Thank you for joining us on Sensationally Silver, a state of mind.
And if you want to find more recipes, you can come to my website, cleansingforenergy.com. I post on my blog recipes all the time.
Let me put in a little plug too for Julia's protein powder because it is excellent. I've used it many, many, many times in the morning with those frozen fruits thrown in and almond milk and the most wonderful smoothie. It's just great.
Thank you.
Delightful to eat and really, really good for you because Julia is committed to that. Her things that she offers with her label on them are always made meticulously and for our greater good. So I got to put a plug in for Julia because she's on our side, right? Okay, everybody. Bye for now.
See you next time.
Sensationally Silver, a state of mind, is sponsored by Sensationally Silver, a complete hair care product line created especially for people with hair like ours, naturally gray and white hair. Sensationally Silver products can be found exclusively at sensationallysilver.com.
Sensationally silver, because you are.